Welcome to Movie Roundup. Today I'm going to explain a drama movie war based on real events called The Sniper. In the middle of a war zone in Iraq, we see the skillful sniper, American Chris Kyle, lying on the roof of a building covering an Allied convoy. Soon after, Chris sees a suspicious man in the building opposite talking on the phone while go to advance the convoy. The boy decides inform the superior of him, but in that moment the subject hides, and from the main door of the building leave a woman and a child, the two suspects. They move toward the convoy and Chris watches as the woman gives a Russian grenade to the young man. Man doesn't know if he should shoot, since if the child is innocent, it will be a crisis. Sent to prison for committing a war crime while the boy runs towards the convoy. The scene cuts, taking us to the past where we see Chris taking a horse before enlist in the army. Upon graduation, He and his brother go to Chris's house, where he meets his wife with another man. Chris bangs and takes out, kicks the subject, and then argues with his woman, telling him to get out of the house. Home too. His brother jokes about the situation, and the two sit down to watch the television while they talk about what it suddenly happened on the news. You see that a terrorist group has attacked various U.S. embassies, leaving several deaths. This situation is moving a lot to Chris, making them feel that he should do something to protect and help your country. So the next day the man goes to a Navy office and asks enlist in the army. The subject of the army offers to enter to the SEAL team, and after explain that very few manage to overcome the initial test, Chris accepts the challenge. Soon after, we see Chris in the entrance test to the SEALs team, where he can be seen exercising while a subject asks you questions, and he sprays pressurized water on her face. Several are the tests he must go through, including target practice, but the subject manages to stand out in all and is accepted into the team. One night Chris goes to a bar next to several soldiers, and there he meets a pretty woman named Size. Both they talk for a while, and Chrysler proposes to Size take a youth for each question. What do you do to get to know each other a little? But the woman ends up vomiting, so he returns home a few days. Chris calls Size for ask her if she wants to accompany him to the fair, where the boy gives him a stuffed animal, and the two know each other better. Several months go by, and we can see how the two young people live together and plan his wedding. On the wedding day, he and his colleagues, without receiving the news that they will be deployed to fight in Iraq, to which they celebrate. The film go back to the beginning scene, where we see the boy running towards him convoy for what Chris decides to do. The shot, the grenade he was carrying, remains lying on the ground, and the woman who accompanies the child runs to him explosive and try to throw it at the convoy. At that moment the freezer eliminates the woman, and the grenade falls several meters of the soldiers, so the blast it does not get to hurt them. When returning to the base, a colleague congratulates him on his first casualties, and the group heads to a common room where explain that the purpose of the mission is find and remove randomly Tawhi, that is the prince of Al-Qaeda group in Iraq. Chris continues to support his companions from the height, killing with the rifle of him to all the rebels and terrorists who cross their path. While his companions advance, they comment that the enemies also have to a very deadly sniper named Mustafa, who has already claimed the life of several American soldiers. Next morning the group returns to the base, and Chris comments to their teammates that he has killed 6 enemy soldiers. So in the dining area they applaud him and start calling him legend every day while he does reconnaissance tasks. Chris stops to call his pregnant wife, asking her how she is going to do, reminding her that he loves her. The soldiers on the ground receive the warrant to search houses of information about the leader. While Chris gives them cover from above, Chris thinks not. They need a sniper for this mission, so he decides to come down and help. To his companions, when entering one of the houses, the group meets the residents who had refused to leave the place with the help of a interpreter. Chris asks Mr. about al-Sarawi to what the subject. He replies that the best way to give with him is capturing his right hand, a soldier known as the Butcher. The Lord tells Chris that he will give him more information if they give you a reward of $100,000 in the base. The group does intelligence tasks and conclude that the man is telling them the truth. So they prepare the reward and they return to your house to deliver it to you. Road crisis calls battle, and woman reveals to her that her son is a boy. At that, Chris suddenly celebrates with joy. The truck driver is killed by Mustafa and all the soldiers search shelter. In the midst of despair, the phone. Chris falls to the ground and is there. He is horrified to hear the shots and the cries of wounded soldiers. Butcher discovers that the gentleman has gave information about him to the troops Americans, so he kills the son of the subject in the middle of the square with a powerful drill. The man is also killed, and the Butcher warns that anyone who gives information to the U.S. will be killed without piety. Chris and the other soldiers, they use smoke grenades and escape the place to a safe zone. 3 weeks later, the troops return to USA, and Sizes is happy to see that Chris still alive. The man tries to disconnect and go back to your normal life, but you can notice that something in him is changing. Little time he is already starting with the contractions, and Chris takes her to the hospital where her first child was born. Chris is redeployed to Iraq and he is transported by helicopter to the road base. Tell you that the terrorists put a price on his head, and when all the SEALs arrive, they meet to be informed of the next mission. There they tell them that they have information of the possible whereabouts of the Butcher, and the equipment is sent to that building to investigate. When entering the apartment, SEALs meet a family. Scared, and Chris asks if they know to the Butcher, but they say they don't know who he is and deny being linked to the terrorism. Moments later, he tries to be nice and he offers them to stay for dinner with him. While they eat and talk, the subject stretch to reach something on the ground, and Chris notices that his elbows are red and hurt. Chris suspects the man. He could be a soldier, so he says that he will go to the bathroom, but in reality, he begins to search the rooms until he finds a hole in the floor with many weapons and explosives. Chris returns to the table and threatens the subject, which reveals to them that he knows the location of the Butcher and tells them that he will help them to capture him. They go to the house of Butcher and get into position to enter, but the target escapes by a back tunnel and gets into a car. SEALs shoot him, and Chris gets to blow up the car with the Butcher inside. Shortly after, he returns to the US and we see Chris in the mechanic. We can see how the loud noises start to bother him more and more, and a soldier approaches to congratulate him on his work in Iraq. When he goes to the hospital, Chris sees through from the window to his second daughter, who she is a girl, and she gets angry when she sees her baby is crying and no one lends her attention. At her house, she tells him that she is very difficult to raise the two children on her own. And she assures him that the war is changing to what Chris shows. Indifferent to the short time it is deployed. Again in Iraq, where the team receives orders to pursue a pickup truck. While the subjects of the truck open fire and the SEALs, they manage to bring them down quickly without take casualties. Crisis. Your partner Beagles decide climb to a roof to observe the environment when Mustafa shoots the young man in the face. Quickly other companions approach to give covering fire and Chris to help the wounded person by raising him to the ham and back to base. The doctors operate on him. Emergency and the other soldiers are sent to another mission in the city of Convoy meets a group of insurgents who are exterminated and then they enter a building to clear it. While advancing, several enemy soldiers shoot the group through the window, killing one of his companions. The remaining soldiers return to base, and they are sent back to the U.S. to arrive the high command of the army. Sadly celebrate the funeral of fallen soldier, where we can see the Psy's very concerned about the possible destiny of Chris. Then the man goes to the hospital to see how your fellow Beagle and is glad to know that he is stable and will undergo a series of reconstruction operations. Facial. At home, the relationship with Psy's is getting worse and Chris defends himself, saying that he does it to protect them. Woman tells him that he has already done a lot for her country, and if he decides to go to war again when he returns to her, no longer he will be waiting at the fourth deployment. Can we see Chris again in Iraq, talking to Asil, who tells him that his Beagle's friend of his has died in the last surgery. Mental health cries deteriorates rapidly and the equipment prepare for one of the most difficult missions. Important. The group heads to the roof of an old factory from where suppose they could see Mustafa and all. The SEALs take position shortly. Chris manages to find the sniper Mustafa 2 kilometers away, but his companions do not believe him and say that it is impossible to hit a shot from so far away. The team sees several enemies in the streets below, so yes, Chris shoot will alert all insurgents of their position and will be widely overcome in this difficult situation. One of the companions of him asks for help for the evacuation, and at that time Crisis decides to make the difficult shot. Bullet pierces Mustafa in the head, killing him instantly, but now all insurgents heading towards them. The team prepares to defend the position until the group of rescue while enemies attack tirelessly called Crisis is there in the middle of the confrontation, telling him that he is ready to come home when we can observe as a storm of sand is fast approaching. The storm reaches them and hides them from the enemies while the soldiers flee of the building, sliding down a pipe. When lowering, the rescue team arrives at the place and the soldiers who survivors are evacuated to the base to be sent back to the USA. At home, Chris watches TV off, remembering the sounds of war, while he goes out to the patio where one of his sons were celebrating his birthday, and she starts talking to Psy. Suddenly a dog begins to play with one of the kids, but Chris gets nervous since he thinks he is attacking him and grabs the dog to beat him with his belt. All in the party are horrified to see the situation, so Chris goes to the psychologist to be treated, and after several sessions she manages to be the person she was before the war. The boy helps with the housework and manages to resume the link that was lost with his wife and his children, as he can't stand the urge to tell him anymore. Proud that she is of him for everything he has done and what a good husband he is. Chrysler comments that she has to go now. That the mother of a former Marine called him on the phone to ask you to help your son to overcome the traumas left by the war. The man says goodbye details and the woman sees the strange subject standing next to the van. The door closes, and the film reveals that Chris Kyle, he was killed that same day at the hands of former Marine whom he was trying to help. Remember to leave your like, that helps a lot to the channel. Subscribe and activate the notifications to see more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and until next time. Sniper kills 160 enemies, but his life changes tragically.